Hey there. So I just plan to make one video tonight, do the Kino one. So you're probably going to see them at different times anyway. But welcome to my second, I guess, MovieProf podcast until I think of an actual good name for it. So I'm online tonight, and I'm reading through a couple forums, and the question came up of what is the greatest decade in cinema history. So what's the greatest decade for films? And I think the question went into like, what's the greatest decade for American films? Now, overall, the general consensus on the forum at the time was that it was the 1970s, and there were many films that were put out there. Now, playing devil's advocate, like I always do, I was born in '71. I grew up in the I was a kid in the '70s, grew up in the '80s. I just threw out some '80s films to put in there because apparently there's this thought that during the 1980s, the only thing that was made were blockbusters and slasher films. Now that disturbed me. At the end of the day, I actually know what the greatest decade in cinema is, unequivocally, and I can tell you in a second, actually. But I'd be lying. I could list a bunch of movies, and because I'm a fan of the '80s films, and I could like steer clear of the blockbuster stuff and talk about Jim Jarmusch and a lot of the different films, Cinema Paradiso, classics like that came out around that time. I could also go back to the '60s or the '50s and start listing off some movies there that I think are some incredible classics. I'd go and talk about film noir and how I think that peaked in the '40s and in some way certain types of cinema did. A lot of people, well, not a lot of people, some people, usually it's elitists, not all the time, that will say the '70s and they'll talk about auteur cinema, which is one type of cinema. But the thing is this: the answer is subjective. If you were like me and you grew up in the '70s and the '80s, '70s or the '80s are probably going to be your favorite decade for cinema. I like them both. But do I have a favorite? I lean more towards the '80s for some of that stuff because. But then again, there's a lot of great films in the '70s as well. Like, but am I going to say, okay, this decade is better than this decade, and I'm completely right? This decade, in my eyes, is better than this other decade, or due to the films that I've seen and the experiences that I've had, whether like how movies reached me, how movies touched me, how movies made me grow. My answer is going to be different than your answer was watching right here. The '70s may be the greatest decade in film for you, and you know what? You're not wrong. Now, that being said, a guy can come there and say the '60s or the '80s or the '40s are the greatest decade in film and cinema history for them. They're not wrong either. There is no greatest. Some, in my opinion, are definitely better than others, but I'm an older guy. I study cinema history. And there are some that I can just say, I consider this to be a better decade because this film were made in it. But each film, each decade has had some classic films. It had films like even now in a time when people, let's just say in the 2000s, people are going to be like, are saying there's not a lot of classic films that are out there. Now, here's the thing: a lot of films that are classics now weren't classics when they originally came out. Now, some of them were. Some of them became like big hits right away. Other ones didn't. Other ones did horrible at the box office. Other ones were found years later. Citizen Kane is considered one of the greatest films of all time. Citizen Kane was not considered one of the greatest films of all time when it came out. A lot of movies are like that. So, to out and out say, check, yes, this is the greatest decade ever. You're totally wrong. Is bull. You can say it, but you're not right. you're right to you, but you're not, but you can't be right overall. You cannot unequivocally say, okay, the 70s is the greatest, that's it, because Star Wars came out and Halloween came out, and a lot of great movies in the 70s. There is a strong case to be argued for the 70s being one of the greatest decades of all time. But there's also a strong case, maybe even stronger in some sense, that the 60s could be the greatest decade of all time. But beauty, and in this case perception, is in the eye of the beholder. They're a great movie. For a long time, I'll put it to you this way. I would trash 90s cinema. And especially 90s. I'm a horror fan, so I would trash like 90s horror cinema. And I was like, no, horror, like it peaked in the 80s. There was no good horror after 1980s. 1980s. It even got like lessened in the... And the same thing with music. I'm an 80s guy, so I like a lot of the 80s music. Hey, you. Kitty cat down there. Oh, you're adorable, you know that. But just because those were the movies that that I related to at the time, it didn't negate the movies that came after it. Not by a long shot. It didn't negate the music that came after it. Like, I will outright admit that I like a lot of the poppy music of the 1980s that is not considered like one of the strongly, nobody's going to say, well, yeah, dude, it's classic radio. The music I grew up with is considered classic radio now. Does classic always mean good? Maybe not, but classic nonetheless. So what does this rant all come down to? You can argue in debate, don't argue, what the best decade is for you. And you may wholeheartedly have that argument solid. You like, this is it, this is what it is. But be able to listen to other people's opinions and arguments. On the site that I went on, a lot of people were making fun of this guy who said that, at the end of the day, it's fairly subjective. And they were like, no, you got to read more on cinema history. Like, critics and historians have said the 70s is the greatest decade of all time. And there were comments that spoke about slasher films and blockbusters, and everything plummeted in the 1980s. None of that was true. Movies didn't reach this high art echelon in the 1970s, and it was all downhill from there. It didn't reach in the 1980s either. There's still great films being made, and there are great films going to be made long after that. Films that are going to be considered classics. So the 70s weren't all art house, gritty films. They weren't all auteur films, and the 80s weren't all blockbusters and slasher films. That's generalization, and it drives me up the wall. So there you go. What are your thoughts on that? Don't tell me that. Yeah, well, you can tell me that, no, it's the 70s, but it's subjective. Do I think it's the 70s? Do I think it's the 60s? Maybe I'll do a series on decades of cinema and give you my opinions on it. When I do that, understand that when I talk about things, they are still my opinions. Hopefully an educated opinion, but an opinion nonetheless. And if you agree or disagree with me, it doesn't make me or you more right on a certain film or a certain decade. It just means that our perceptions are aligned. Now that we've started with a bang, let's look at some other stuff. I'll be right back. I got a couple ideas for tonight, and let's have some fun. All right, this is Scaredy. He is one of the many cats that you will see in my videos. There are 4 that I have, and he's needing a lot of attention right now. So it's going to take me a couple more minutes before I get my the stuff set up that I need to do. But I'll be right back. Maybe me and Scaredy will be right back together, and we'll look at some more stuff. Hey there. So last night Nintendo did their latest Direct, and there's definitely a bit of news there. Now, one of the biggest things that there's a couple big things that they announced, and some like were definitely game changers. Now, the first thing that I guess the first big thing that they really announced was they announced that they were going to do a series of like of arcade games on the Switch, like not ports of the NES version, but actual arcade ports. It's going to be called the Arcade Archives. Now, there's different things like Donkey Kong, Super Mario Brothers, and again, not the Super Mario Brothers and Donkey Kong that were the NES cart ports, but actually the arcade ports. That's a good distinction to know when you're thinking of that. So there's some really cool stuff that can come out, and that's just the start of the first. I guess this is the first sign of like maybe a virtual console style coming to the Switch, which many people thought is much needed. Now, that being said, that is great news, but I guess the biggest news of all that we can talk about is that with Skyrim coming from Bethesda, one of the big things with Nintendo in the last few years has been third-party support. It's been something that's been banned. Anybody that has been anti-Nintendo at all, and sometimes rightfully so, they'll talk about the lack of third-party support. Now the Switch has been kind of selling gangbusters, and pretty much it comes in, it goes to Walmart, people grab it up. Now there's a new Splatoon Switch out. I think that I don't know if it's new or not, but I actually saw them at my Walmart recently. I've already got the Switch. And I do highly recommend it. There is a difference in playing it. I play retro gaming a lot, but I do really enjoy my Switch, and that's, it's an on-the-go type of a system. And we already knew that games like Zelda, which was knocking it out of the park, we're pretty sure that the new Super Mario Odyssey one is going to be a fantastic game. So, but that's the way it is with Nintendo. Their first-party support's always been really, really good. Now, when it comes to third-party support, it's been kind of off and on. It's been very spotty, especially with stuff like the Wii U. Now, that being said, there were some decent games that came out, third-party-wise, but not a lot. But Bethesda became a game changer. Bethesda's a big company, and the fact that they're putting out Skyrim, their remastered edition, was cool. It's it's already been on the Xbox One, it's already been on the PS4, and people thought about it being maybe it was more of a stripped-down version of Skyrim, but no, it looks to be like an actual full, really good version of Skyrim. Now, also alongside that, and they're actually getting an NBA 2K18 and a WWE 2K18 as well. So you're getting more third-party support from there. Was there any wrestling games on the Wii U? I don't really remember. I kind of don't think so. Maybe there was, and I just don't remember it. But it's not where I got my wrestling games. Now this year, for the first year ever, WWE 2K18 is coming out, and I've got to think, because I would normally just get my wrestling games on my PS4 because graphics but the ability to like just take my game out and play it whenever I want to, and take my wrestling game on the go, and not have to buy a separate game. Not like the PSP or 3DS days, or with DS days, with the pared down wrestling games, but to actually take 2K18 on the go, that's pretty tempting. A 9 chance out of 10, if I do buy WWE 2K18, if I do get that for Christmas, I'm going to grab the Switch version. I'll look to make sure like it hasn't been pared down, that type of thing. The graphics should be comparable. And to be totally honest, it's not going to matter that much to me that way. But that being said, Switch isn't really good with the graphics. Zelda's been pretty amazing. But that's not the big thing. That's not the big news when it came to Nintendo Direct. No. Bethesda announced 2 other games coming to the Nintendo Switch. They announced Doom, which is an amazing, amazing shooter. And if you ever played Doom on the PS4, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. In my opinion, I think it's a great game. That's big there. Doom is huge to coming. It's not something that would be expected to come for the Nintendo Switch. And then they announced that the oh my god, I totally blanked for a second there. So they announced Doom for the Nintendo Switch, and they also announced one other game. And don't tell me that I don't remember it right now. I totally remember it. I'm not going to look at my phone. I have not blanked out on. You guys are looking at this right now, and you're screaming at me to remember. Because, how could you forget this? This game is huge. Wolfenstein 2. There we go. I had forgotten. I never forgotten. It's later in the night, and I'm going to use that as an excuse. My mind has gone to sleep, and I haven't. I do apologize that the lighting has been a little. Let's go move it over here a little bit. If you look over here, you're going to see that I got a shelf there. Let's see. In the background, that's completely empty. That's because I got some movies coming for Halloween, and I want space for them. I'm already looking at doing some more expansion onto the library. To be honest with you guys, I have some VHS that I have to get out, and eventually I do want to have all my films down here, including my Super 8, my 8mm films, my Super 8mm films, and to work that into the way. Well, you can stay there, baby. That's good. You're good. But he's off already. You didn't have to go. So those there, I got distracted by my kitty cat. Scary's adorable. Anyway, yeah, I eventually went to move at the library, but Nintendo Switch. Bethesda putting these games forward, the 2K games coming forward. It looks really, really good. Nintendo's already got a ton of really great games coming out for the Switch themselves. But for a change, looks they've got a lot of really great games coming out from third party, and there's a bunch of there's already indie third party support coming out there, and there's more and more being announced every day, whether it be like a Super Meat Boy type of game, Binding of Isaac came out, but to see like that the bigger companies look to be on board, I think other companies are going to follow suit and do kind of like what Bethesda did, and you're going to slowly see games coming out there. And the thing is that people are, the Switch was a gamble for Nintendo. This could have went really wrong. They listened to a lot of their younger people working on there for the first time. They decided they listened to a lot of the younger voices, and it's really obvious with the way the Switch is done. Like just simple little things, from like garnering more third-party support to putting on games like Rocket League, to like, and they really like. It's obvious that they really kind of like wanted to marry their system to things like e-gaming, which is actually which I still can't believe is a real sport. It's awesome, but it in fact is a definitely it's a real not the type of sports I used to play when I was younger, and often get my butt kicked at. Just so you know, I was a scrawny little guy, so there were certain sports that I was pretty good at, and because when you're young and you're tiny, you run, and you run fast, and then you develop a sense of humor, because they go together. But I was good at soccer. I was horrible at softball. I think softball would be pretty easy. Not a lot of contact in softball, right? So I was doing some pitching, just some tossing back and forth, and I had pretty good aim. So for one of the first times that it ever happened to me is that one of the guys that was coaching it picked me and said, we're going to put you on, we're going to give you a try with the like pitching, softball. Now, as you know, softball is much different than baseball, and like there's a huge ball, it's hard, and it kind of, the pitch is usually done kind of like an underhand type of pitch. So we get there. I go on. It's the very first game that I have to play, and I'm pitching. I'm definitely not, the going to be the main pitcher there, but they want to see what I can do. So the first guy comes up. I get ready. I line it up. I take the pitch, and seconds later, the batter is kneeling on the ground because the ball has gone directly between his legs. Yeah, that's a friend of mine. And he peed blood for a while. Just saying. Guess who didn't play softball aside from with his friends pretty much again? This guy. This guy right here. But no, I like to... That's the type of sports I did. I did soccer. I played a lot of soccer. Tried to play a lot of basketball. Wasn't great. It was okay. What sports were you guys into? Did you guys play sports? I did about it. Well, I did some kickboxing and stuff. But basically, I did more of that, like boxing and kickboxing on my own. Mostly boxing, really, because I found it a good stress reliever. I wasn't like jumping in the ring and like golden glovesing anyone. I just did it for like stress relief and exercise. I would love to have like just a speed bag and a bag here to like and I can actually mount it. I actually have a place where I can mount it at here. Would be pretty good. But I'm getting off on a tangent, ain't I? Because we just started with esports to protect Nintendo, and then I got off on this. But sometimes tangents are bad. I hope not, anyway. My sports skills or lack thereof. There you go. You learned a little bit more about me today. I did play football, North American football. I guess I played soccer, which is football everywhere else in the world, and I did well at that. I played regular North American football, and a lot of running. We played touch, but in our backyards. But as you guys all know, if you're my age or if you're just really super active the way I was, you'll know that touch football stays touch football for like 15 seconds, and then you go and you like go to touch someone, and they'll like kind of graze you, or they don't totally get you, and like maybe they don't know, maybe they haven't realized that I've almost touched them. Did I touch them? I'm not sure if I touched them. I could have touched them, but what if I didn't touch them? What if they don't stop and I touch them? But what if I didn't touch them and they do stop? What if they think that they touched them? There's only one way to make sure. Tackle. Tackle. Jump them. Knock them down on the ground. That's the one way to take all that, like, suggestion and like wonderment out of it. If you're not sure, dive. And yeah, so that happened a lot. Let's play touch football. Yeah. So anyway, but like I said, like I started with before, this Nintendo Direct was a really, really good one, and a really solid move towards Nintendo in the future and what they're doing with the Switch. It looks to be really fairly positive, and pretty much across the board online as well. Most of the gaming sites are actually are giving it a pretty big thumbs up, and Doom especially is getting a lot of news. People are giving a lot of talk in the. Now, if you're not a Doom fan, don't worry. But what this means is that companies like Bethesda are putting like big games and time and money and effort into making games for the Switch. Therefore, you're probably going to get more games, maybe the style that you like. If you like RPGs, if you like action role-playing, if you like action games, if you like some other style of... I totally can't think right now. if you have like any other, if you like football games, all that type of stuff, there's a good chance it's going to come out on the Nintendo Switch and come out in a good version, not a pared down version like we've seen in the last couple of previous ones. And I'll give you a great example of that. My better half now. Before we even started dating or anything like that, when we were just like kind of buds, like hanging on that, we hadn't even thought about like at that point. We just used to watch movies and chill and down the road that came about. This wasn't an overnight love affair type of thing. It was it took its time, and I think that's the way that there's of course love at first sight. And did I have feelings? I probably didn't even realize it until much later, but because we had such a good, solid friendship, and I'm really proud of that actually. That we had a really good friendship first. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent again, and I gotta bring me back in. Just bring me back in. So she was getting getting a couple games for me for Christmas, and she knew I was like a wrestling fan. I love the wrestling games. So I had a Nintendo Wii, and I had a PlayStation 3. The WWE wrestling game for the Nintendo Wii, and the WWE wrestling game for the PS3. There's a big difference. It's not like, gee, I wonder if this character is going to be there. No, it was fully supporting of the motion controls. Good Lord, oh my God! And my better half now. Well, not being a gamer, not really knowing the difference between the what the PS3 or the Wii version are going to be like. She had a Wii and had a lot of fun with it. So she thought, and spent a lot of money on it actually for me. Was I'll get him the Wii WWE wrestling game. So I knew she was gonna. She had hinted that she was getting me a wrestling game, and I was pretty sure it was the PS3 game. I was kind of excited about it. I had held off on buying it because I was pretty sure it was coming. So Christmas comes, and I'm opening the game, and I know it's the game, and I'm like, I just get a little tear, and I see the white case, and then I know, and I see her face, and she's excited because this is like a very sweet thing to do. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to totally flip out over the Wii WWE game, which I did very, very well, acting. But so there was a difference back then. There was a strong quality difference between like a Wii game and a game on a PS3 or an Xbox 360. Even with the Wii U, there was, and they were up there. There was differences in the different ports. There had to be. Now, however, they're able to port the game, the actual game with stuff, and sometimes extra bonus stuff, and that Nintendo has, and get all the downloadable content, all that stuff in there. So we're not seeing that like huge chasm in like the quality between Nintendo and the other companies anymore. No, in fact, the other companies really have to work harder in some cases because, at the end of the day, I can put the wrestling game in my PS4 and play it on my TV and have a really good time with great graphics and really great gameplay. But I can take that same game and now put that in my Nintendo Switch, play it on my big TV, have a great time, take the Switch out, go outside, go for a drive, go to the washroom, and keep playing that same game. And that chasm of quality isn't there anymore. Something to think about. So if you've been thinking about the Switch and you're not quite sure, I do recommend it. And if you're wondering why so many people are going gaga over this game system, and you really don't get it, I was really excited about the Switch. I got less excited as it came closer to the time because of the price and all that. It's something you have the experience to really, really get. There's a difference in having a PSP or a 3DS or a PS Vita and playing games like that, and actually having the game itself on your oh yes, yes, and having it on the go. Trust me, you're not streaming it from the PS3 or the PS4. The game itself is the game system itself is what you pick up. It's what you go with. That may not seem like a big difference until you play it, but when you start doing it, when you start playing it, when you start playing games like that, it can be hard to go back, especially when you realize that you can get some of these quality games, right? Right? Can't you? And still have the portability. So, I've been asked recently a few times if I was going to talk about the Nintendo Switch anymore, and definitely there's going to be Nintendo Switch segments in my videos. Obviously with some tangents along the way. I hope you guys don't mind that. But I thought tonight we'd have fun with the podcast and we just really do something unique and different. I'll be right back because I got a couple lists to do for you as well tonight. Some pretty cool stuff, and hopefully you'll enjoy it. And when I do these list things, by the way, or when I do collection updates and stuff like that, especially when I do list videos, any suggestions that you might have, you may think that there's something I missed out on, something that I forgot about, feel free to give me suggestions as well, because I got a lot of movies here, but I far from have everything, or even everything that I want or need to get. So suggestions are always helpful, even if I can't afford to get them right away. I do keep note of everything that's suggested in my videos, in the comment section down below, and I really enjoy the comment section. I was disappointed that I don't think I got any comments on the Vinegar Syndrome collection video, which took a lot of work, actually, because it wasn't just, I did that upstairs, and I actually had to bring my filming equipment into my sitting room to actually to do the video, and bring everything upstairs and get everything set up. And then there was a spillage during the video, so I actually had to retake it 3 times. So out of all the videos in the race, I guess I shouldn't be but I was a little down on the viewership and comments on those videos. But that happens. Some videos are going to relate more than others, and this video may get watched 200 times and may get watched 100, and people may say, oh well, that's boring, and just go on from there. But hopefully they won't. Hopefully that I can bring something a little different when it comes to my thoughts on films, on video games, and television. I'll be right back, guys. This cat is really, really in need of attention. Hey there, so I am back, and this is just I'm very excited about what Kino's been doing lately. They're putting out a lot of really good stuff. They just announced, and I mentioned this in my Kino update, the Fritz Lang set, the 13-disc Fritz Lang. I think it's 12-disc, 13 movies Fritz Lang set, which has some really great stuff on it, including I think it has one here. I think it has Spies, which is because it's Fritz Lang silent classics, silent masterpieces. So what I decided to do was pick out 7 very different Kino releases that I think should be in everybody's collection. If you're just starting to collect Kino, here's 7 Kino movies that I think, if you like these genres, or even if you don't, give it a try. Because here's some really good, cool, classic, in different ways, types of films. First up is one that I spoke about a lot when I got it. Fascinating, wonderful blaxploitation film, and it goes way above what what I think a lot of blaxploitation films do. The acting in this is really really good. I like the story. The supernatural aspects of it were really well done. Corey, I think it's Corey in this. Corey plays a great bad guy as well, and it's a movie by the name of Sugar Hill. If you have not seen Sugar Hill, I do strongly recommend it. It is a really, really good. It's got an audio commentary, on camera interviews there, but overall, Sugar Hill is a solid, solid film. It's a movie that I think whether you're really into blaxploitation or you're just dipping your toes in it, it's a great film either way. Check it out. It's very different. This is not Pam Grier, but it's just a really well done film. And the actor, oh God, well, I'm not sure who played Baron Samedi in this one, is incredible. He just does a great job. Overall, I really, really enjoyed this. My better half had never seen it before and came out of this one raving about it. And she's the blaxploitation huge fan, but this one really, really impressed her. Next up is Burt Reynolds one. If you're getting Kino films, there's a lot of Burt Reynolds to wade through. Some's good, some is great, some is middling. But if you like Burt Reynolds, 9 chances out of 10, you're probably gonna like most of them. And you're either gonna be on like I like the Smokey and the Bandit style, or like the darker Burt Reynolds type of style. Now Kino goes with a lot of the Smokey and Bandit style, but they do have like different type of Burt Reynolds films. This one is a little bit more serious than the Smokey and the Bandit stuff. Its sequel would get more on the hammier side, but White Lightning is a way, way better film than I actually expected it to be. I expected a much more lighthearted film than I got here, and it's cast here, by the way. We got Jennifer Billingsley in this, Ned Beatty, Bo Hopkins, Matt Clark. It is a fantastic film. Ned Beatty is great, and overall, pretty much everything I've seen him in. I remember he played this killer of like I think it was prostitutes in an episode of Y502. Even that was really, really good. Original Y502. White Lightning gives you like a Burt Reynolds Back to the Bayou Part 1 featurette. It's really good, by the way. And the original theatrical trailer. It doesn't seem like a lot, but that Back to the Bayou featurette, that's Part 1 of 2. Why is it Part 1 of 2? Because they also put it in the sequel of this movie, Gator, which is also good. I enjoyed it. It's slightly more lighthearted than White Lightning, but still is a really solid. Gator's his character's name, by the way. And basically, there's a guy that's been his family running moonshine's kind of been like a thing in the family. They're they're definitely anti-establishment, going against the grain, going against law. His father's a moonshiner. He finds out that his brother has been killed by corrupt law enforcement. He goes to work with FBI. He goes to work with law enforcement agencies anyway, and this becomes a dividing point between him and his dad. And it's just a really good film. Check it out, White Lightning with Burt Reynolds. Really, really great film. Really great cast. Next up is a comedy, and not just any comedy, but a great comedy. An example of a comedian that I think at this point was really at his height. But not just that, it's a great improvisational experiment as well. And that is Peter Sellers' The Party. This film is incredible. This is one of my favorite, it's one of my favorite Peter Sellers films of all time. And it's definitely my favorite non-Pink Panther one. Yes, and that includes Doctor Strangelove and all that. The Party is the one that I really like. And I love this kind of, is this Mort Drucker who did the artwork here? It looks very Mort Druckerish. It's probably not. It just has that feel to it. But the artwork's really nice. Again, inside the Party featurette, the Party Revolution featurette, original theatrical trailer, Blake Edwards profile, Walter Mirisch profile, and Ken Wales profile. It's a really cool, it's a very different film. Basically, what's the characters that he plays in here? He plays Harundi V. Bakshi. So he's playing an Indian actor, actually. And he's very accident prone. So, Peter Sellers-ish. A lot of the stuff that he does in this movie is not in the script. A lot of stuff that he does in this movie is him. A lot of it is very much improv. It's like Peter Sellers was a force of nature. when it came to it. There was a lot of stuff. There's been lots of written, and like we've seen movies with Peter Sellers, but what a dark person he was. And Peter Sellers was a genius, and geniuses unfortunately sometimes have go into the into the darker reaches. The Party doesn't. The Party is a blast through and through. It is a great comedy. If you don't own it, if you don't have it in your collection, I know that MGM had a release of this. I think I have that. Actually, I got my son that one actually. I finally was able to get The Party Kino, and it is a great release. I highly recommend it. If you own one Peter Sellers film in your collection, definitely make it The Party. Now, here's one that I like. Here's one that didn't do as well when it originally came out. But I thought this movie was a blast. I liked everything about it. Now, this movie is not a politically correct movie. It's written by Mickey Spillane. It's a Mickey Spillane novel. And there's a lot of, there's nudity in this one here. There's some pretty raunchy scenes. But there's a great, there's great action stories. There's a bit of mystery to it. Not like nothing that you're not going to be able to figure out. Trust me on this one. And it was so well done. I saw this movie originally when I was way too young to in the theater. And I had hoped that this was going to be the start of a series of films with this actor, and stars Amanda Santi, and the movie is called The Jury. I love this film. I think this is an incredible, kind of like a neo-noir, neon-noir, there you go, style film. Armando Sante does a great job in this one here, and it's not always the easiest thing to do, but Armando Sante playing Mike Hammer, I definitely bought it. And great cast again. We have Armando Sante, of course. Barbara Carrera is in this one. Alan King. Lauren Landon does a great job as the secretary. Jeffrey Lewis, of course, always good. And Paul Sorvino as Pat Chambers. So, again, earlier on today, I showed you, today for me, a different Matt Scudder movie than Walk Among the Tombstones. I showed you the movie 8 Million Ways to Die with Jeff Bridges doing the part that Liam Neeson will later play. Here is another Mike Hammer film. With Armando Sante doing an incredible job, in my opinion, in the role. I really like this film. So I definitely recommend The Jury. Next up is just a really cool action film. And this is true action. I like the way this was done. I find this very topical right now because it does deal with kind of like a shadow government conspiracy type of thing, white supremacy. So there's some things that can cut pretty close to home here for some people, but it's done in a very fantastical way, and it's just a cool film. Pretty brutal, especially for the 80s, and that is Avenging Force. This was the 80s, right? Yeah, 86. Michael Dudikoff plays, oh my God, I remember, who's he playing? It's Matt Hunter, right? Yeah, Matt Hunter. Now, Matt Hunter, you probably know the name because that was Chuck Norris's name in Invasion USA. It's the same character, actually. This was actually originally meant for Chuck Norris, but Michael Dudikoff pulls this off and out Chuck Norris is Chuck Norris, in my opinion, with Avenging Force. It's a great one. Of course, we got Steve James in here as well. William Wallace is in this film. Great cast. Just a really fun film. I found the little girl who plays the sister kind of annoying in it. I don't think she did anything after that, movie-wise. Probably a good career decision. Who knows? She may have turned out to be a great actress later on if she kept doing it. But she did get kind of annoying for me. But little kids in some movies, they can be. Now the next two, if you I do recommend you get the Blu-ray editions. When I found these two, I found them during the HMV sale on the very last day, and I got them for $1 each. So yay! First up is 52 Pickup. This is an incredible Arrow put out an edition to this as well. If you don't have the Arrow edition, if you're not region free, either way, this is a great edition of it. Roy Schreider and Margaret. Now, there's no features on this one here. It's pretty much the just straightforward the movie. But I'm a huge fan of the movie 52 Pickup. I'm a huge fan of Roy Schreider, and I think he does a fantastic job in these type of films. This is one of the reasons I'm so excited to rewatch The Last Embrace. It's been so long since I've seen that film. I now remember 52 Pickup a bit more than I remember that. Speaking of John Glover's in this one actually. I mentioned John Glover in a in the video that I did previous to this one, the Kino one. Yeah, John Glover is an awesome bad guy in this film. He just really, really kills it. This has a fantastic cast. John Frankenheimer's just is incredible. We got Clarence Williams III, and he steals every scene he's in. There's Vanities in this one as well. It's a great John Frankenheimer film. 52 pickup. I strongly, highly, 120% recommend this film. I could have said pick it up 52 times. That would be cheesy, right? Last but definitely not least is this great 80s cheesy schlocky film. It's an action film. You should own this. It is so cheesy. Some really cool people on here, and I've linked their channel in a video previously by the names of Nicole and Kyle. They do these really cool like fitness videos. Now they have this one, and hopefully you've seen it. And if you've seen this, Nicole, feel free to comment down below and let me know if you liked it as much as I did. And it's cheesy, crazy 80s-ness. It is Steel Justice with Martin Kove. Oh my God, this movie is so 80s. It is completely 80s, and there's scenes where you're like, is going on? And the cast, Celia Ward's in this one, Ronnie Cox, Bernie Casey, Joseph Campanella, Jane Gann Boyd. How old is Jane Gann Boyd? There's a reason I'm asking that, because in this movie she's playing it like she's 12 or 13. She doesn't even seem like she's 16 or 17 or 8. She seems older. I'm sorry. She doesn't seem like a young kid that Martin Kove is going to be taking care of. She seems like she could be a girlfriend of Martin Kove's. Maybe she just has that thing where she looks come on, she could not have. We cracked up every time she was playing really young, because she was obviously playing younger than she was. There's some great scenes. The opening scene of this one here, the trap. Look, I'll tell you this much. There's an opening scene, when the opening scenes of this have them down in kind of like, I think it's Viet Cong type of place, down in the secret like bunker under the ground, and the villain has tried to trap them by tying a bomb to a rat. It is hilarious. You have to see this. There you go, guys. It's late at night. It's time for me to get my tea. I really need it. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this. I just want to do something different. This all came out of a little thing that I saw on a forum online, where I thought a guy was getting kind of picked on and bullied a bit. But I've had a blast. Hope you have had a blast too. I'm the Movie Prof. I am Aaron. I'm in need of tea, but I'm pretty hyped right now. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a great evening.